Media had a commanding position in digital media, and it seemed like it was important for me to understand what social networks were and how they functioned. So I began to research network theory, and to my great surprise, what I found was a mathematical description of exactly what I saw unfold in the Orange Revolution. As the years went by and my interest continued, I learned that others found essentially the same thing in vastly different contexts. Annalee Saxenian, a professor at Cal Berkeley, saw similar effects in the formation of Silicon Valley. General Stanley McChrystal found the understanding of networks essential to defeating al-Qaeda in Iraq. After he left the military, he established a successful consultancy teaching businesses to harness many of the same network forces. I would later find that the same principles applied to turnarounds at companies like IBM and Alcoa, as well as movements to promote evidence-based quality practices in medicine, to recruit and train STEM teachers for schools, and even to shift the global giant Experian from a traditional to a cloud infrastructure. Finally, I got to know Sergej Popovich, who leads Canvas, the organization that trained the activists in Ukraine as well as in many other countries around the world. It seemed that everywhere I looked, whenever transformative change took place, networks were central to making it happen. Today, as I write this, it's been more than 15 years since I began my journey at that dinner in Kiev with Jed Sundin. What follows is what I've learned along the way. Introduction. A shift from hierarchies to networks. Power is easier to get and harder to use or keep. Moises Naim. Nobody really knows exactly how or why everything erupted so suddenly. Most probably it was a confluence of factors, events, and contexts. Clearly, though, when protesters began flooding into Zuccotti Park on September 17, 2011, it was the start of something big. The activists obviously touched a nerve that ran deeply throughout the populace, and almost immediately, Occupy Wall Street became a household name. The most proximate cause was a campaign initiated by Adbusters, a pro-environment, anti-consumerist magazine based in Vancouver, Canada, asking, "Are you ready for a Tahrir moment?" and distributing posters with a ballerina perched atop Wall Street's famous bull statue. Those seemingly small sparks quickly grew to bonfire-sized proportions. We basically floated the idea in mid-July into our email list, and it was spontaneously taken up by all the people of the world, remembered Adbusters senior editor Micah White. It just kind of snowballed from there. Others point to earlier precursors, such as a meeting held at 16 Beaver Street, an artist collective in Lower Manhattan, which had been discussing occupations for some time. Or the New York General Assembly, which helped organize the Bloombergville protest that took place earlier that summer to decry budget cuts that would result in mass layoffs of teachers and firefighters. Clearly, those earlier actions laid important groundwork. Most likely, the embers had been stoking for some time, and the call from Adbusters merely helped channel the anger that had been brewing since the financial crisis and had been slowly growing through the work of various activist groups. What is clear, though, is that nobody was quite ready for what followed. Thousands of protesters descended on Zuccotti Park, bringing tents, sleeping bags, and provisions. They were prepared to stay as long as it took to achieve their vision. "We are the 99%, they declared, and as far as they were concerned, it was time for the reign of the 1% to end. The movement spread like wildfire, and before you knew it, similar protests were popping up everywhere. In nearly 1,000 cities across more than 80 countries, ordinary citizens took to the streets to rise up against those who wielded power. It was time for their voice to be heard, and they were determined to make sure it was. Yet within a few months, the streets and parks were cleared. The protesters went home, and nothing much changed. Occupy was, to paraphrase Shakespeare, full of sound and fury, signifying nothing. It may have attracted attention and brought certain issues to the fore, but little more than that. Certainly